Today's title is Thank You for the Scars. Through everything I've been through this year, I found myself at church this past Sunday just thanking God for the hurt and thanking God for the pain and for the loss and for the stretching. Unfortunately, when He's about to take us higher in the next season, we need to be brought lower. If there were no valleys in life for Christians, what would make us keep running back to God? We wouldn't need His peace or His presence. Our struggles are our thorns in our side that make us run back to Him for more righteousness and more holiness. I feel like instead of being super upset when we go through really tough times, we can say, God, how do I handle this? God, how can I grow from this? How can I show people your light and your love that are watching me go through this season of suffering or waiting or confusion? How can I become more like you through this situation? And His grace is sufficient for when we get it wrong, which we will. You can question what the Lord is trying to grow in you through this situation. Could be patience, faith, hard work, relationships, healing. Thank you for the scars. This is NIV. Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but He said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in my weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses so that Christ's power may rest in me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses and insults and hardships and persecutions and difficulties, for when I'm weak, then I'm strong. I was listening to a podcast with Abby Gamboa, and she read the Passion Version translation, and it completely wrecked me. The extraordinary level of the revelations I've received is no reason for anyone to exalt me, for this is why a thorn in my flesh was given to me, the adversary's messenger, sent to harass me, keeping me from becoming arrogant. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to relieve me of this, but He answered me, my grace is always more than enough for you, and my power finds its full expression through your weakness. So I'll celebrate my weaknesses, for when I'm weak, I sense more deeply the mighty power of Christ living in me, so I'm not defeated by my weaknesses, but delighted. For when I feel my weakness and endure mistreatment, when I'm surrounded with troubles on every side and face persecution because of my love for Christ, I am made yet stronger, for my weakness becomes a portal to God's power. So good. That's kind of the verse we're going off of today that I was thinking of when I was writing this. So thank you for the scars. Thank you for the present ones. Thank you for the scars that are slowly fading. Thank you for the ones that I barely recognize anymore, but you still remember. Scars are reminders of what He's already brought you through. The season you never thought would end. The time that you thought could only end in heartbreak and could never be redeemed. Then there are the bigger scars, the life-changing scars. You never thought your prayer would be answered. You thought that scar would always be a reminder of your story and who you are, but a bad reminder. Years of prayer, years of anguish, years of wondering what God's will looked like for you. If those desires that He gave you for something different than your life looked like, would those ever come true? This scar for me is having my daughter 5 years ago, which brought me back to Christ fully, and I surrendered my life to Him. Is a huge part of my testimony, is a huge part of why I started this podcast. I just got saved and just was lit on fire and wanting to share God's love with people in any way that I could, and it was a good experience for me. I craved and journaled for a partner for over 4 years to help me raise her for the kingdom, raise her to love Jesus, and teach others to love Jesus. Years later, I have that scar redeemed through lots of pruning, lots of preparing. Our ways are not his ways, and our thoughts are not his thoughts. So before I met my fiance, it was really hurting, really wondering if having a husband was in God's will for me. It had been 4 years or so that I had been with someone. I was struggling and wrestling that I might have to let this desire go. And there were seasons where I craved it more than others, for sure. Seasons where I was content, where I was lonely, where I was hopeful, where I was doubtful. Got me in tears, this one does. One of my biggest scars turned into my literal testimony. A season where I was the most depressed and didn't think I was going to make it. Being pregnant and alone during COVID was one of the most isolating moments of my life, and that's what the enemy feeds off of. My daughter was a miracle. She was the start for me to turn my life around for good and to receive real healing from the only real healer. And if I didn't have her, I wouldn't wear this scar. And this scar would not be able to show the glory of Jesus and his redemptive power through his spirit and through community and through a relationship with him that brings his healing. One of my current scars I'm working with healing from is in the process. And we can be in process. We can always be healing. We can always just be doing better in our walk. I was on the worship team at my last church for over a year before my fiance and I were told to leave. Prior to this situation, I had kept on being asked to step down from the team. So I'm in the process of healing from this scar. We haven't been there for almost 6 months. I can't believe it. And seeing how God is going to weave this story, right? Like weave this hurt into the goodness for his will and for my life. When you're healing, you cannot be in denial. I feel like I keep stuffing this one down and acting like I'm okay. And then things happen and I'm not okay. There were not a lot of answers that my fiance and I needed. So things get brought up and we continue to question, but not doubt that God has his hand on us and his favors on us as we continue to walk through this season together and heal, being stripped from my community of 3 years that I raised my daughter in was, that was not an easy thing. For me, that I talked about this 2 episodes ago, but that church was my family. I don't have many family around. My friends have always been my family in my whole life. We just struggle with communication, that vulnerability side in my family that we're getting better, but it's just not there. Little tangent there. We need to confront the pain to move forward. So here comes the other part of this story. I made my way to prayer the other night at my new church, and I wasn't there long. But those were the types of nights at my old church where I was able to lead worship in some capacity, and I miss it. I miss all of it. I loved it. But I was realizing, watching, at these prayer nights, they let newer people lead and teenagers lead, and I love that. I love that there's just that freedom and that they trust people and they let them work their kinks out, and it's just not a show. I wish I could explain it. I'll try to in a little bit, but the weight of holding a microphone again and being on stage, it really can feel like all too much after what's happened, and I'm sure that's what the enemy wants, but that doesn't mean it's not going to take me a minute to move past this, unfortunately, and I'm just trusting in God's timing and what that looks like, and you should be healed. I don't want to say that, actually, scratch that. But I think there's a reason where I'm at is, you can't even serve or put your hands to the plow until 6 months, because they want to make sure you want to go to that church and that you're healing from wherever you're coming from, or things like that. Or if you're new to God, then learning how to walk with God and have a relationship and be in community. Wondering the reasons for this scar and other scars. Obviously, it will drag you into a deep hole. But I was at prayer for less than an hour, and Leona came with me. Like I said, just becoming aware of how much my heart was hurting from the damage, from the words and actions of somebody else, when I knew I had a calling on my life, just like anybody else. But it kind of kept getting stuffed down. It's going to be a short one today, but I wanted to drive home in silence. I was hurt. I was hurt by watching how this church treats their people and their leaders and takes care of their ministries. And I truly believe that having younger people, like teenagers and the youth, leading worship and sharing words on stage is, it just shows you that trust that they have for the people that go to their house. And this is aside from the point, but I remember one time I was on the real stage on Sunday, just for backup, but I was told from a couple people that, there was somebody that said I shouldn't close my eyes when I worship, like on stage, and that I shouldn't stop singing, like put my microphone down just to praise and just to sit and to feel the Holy Spirit, to give true and honor worship to my God. Not that I'm not when I'm like this, but I remember I thought that was I was like, what do you mean can't close my eyes? What do you mean I can't, if I'm not leading, if I just feel the Holy Spirit, I can't put my mic down and just soak it in and praise? Churches are different in how they do worship, for sure. I'm in a church now that's very much spirit-led in worship. It's not a show. What I mean by that, they're singing to God. Like, they're not just singing a song, they sing to God. And I'm not talking about anything else. Leading worship is a big deal. I'm not going to act like it's not. And it is okay to make mistakes. It's just okay where I am now. It's okay to laugh on stage. It's okay to drink some water in front of thousands of people that they have. It's okay to wear sandals and hats on stage. And we're just people. And we're just coming together to praise Jesus. Not that that's a small thing, but I don't know, it goes back to like dressing up for church. Like, it's just like, well, then why don't we dress up every day for God? Why just church? Like, you've heard that saying, like, we can't just do church on Sunday and then not the rest of the week. So, anyways, I'm driving home from a prayer night, and CarPlay is off from my new car, and Spotify is off, but my phone was plugged in. And I don't know if you know that, like, when your phone is plugged in, sometimes it can just start playing, like, Spotify. But I was like, no, I want quiet. Like, that was a lot. I didn't realize how hurt and upset I was. And I was upset. I was upset because I felt like I shouldn't have left. Felt like I didn't get the word I needed. And I was upset because I did go there seeking for something, obviously. And I was upset because of everything. All of a sudden, for some reason, the radio had turned on to 91.1 Caleb. And even though I hadn't touched anything in my car, CarPlay was on. I don't know if all cars are the same, but in mine, you literally have a big fat, like, literal button if CarPlay is on to switch to the radio instead of CarPlay. And I don't even know if that would work because CarPlay is plugged in. Regardless, very weird thing to happen. I realized the radio had turned on somehow. And the first words I hear, and I wrote the beginning part of this podcast that day, so I knew the title for my podcast. I knew what I was going to talk about. And the first words I hear from the song are, "I'm thankful for the scars." And I'm sure you've heard it. It's called Scars by I Am They. It's on Caleb all the time. It's got a little, like, country vibe to it. It was written 6 years ago. And it's what I said in church last Sunday. And it's that scar that took me out of somewhere where God closed the door and opened a new one. The chorus goes, I'm going to try to play it at the end. Hopefully the audio isn't weird, but I'm thankful for the scars because without them, I wouldn't know your heart. And I know they'll always tell of who you are. That's just the chorus. The full song is pretty good. I'm sure you've definitely heard it if you have Caleb bumping. But I have really no recollection. Like, I literally, I prayed in church. I'm like, thank you for the scars. And I'm like, wow, that's powerful. And then I really had no recollection of this song, I swear. So listen to it. I'm going to try to play it at the end. We'll see. But friends, I encourage you to dig in to your hurt and how God is using it for his good and your benefit. Hoping some of you can resonate with this and that you sit quietly with the Lord and let him speak to your heart. Let him use pain and grief in your story for him to stretch you in your next season. Like, my fiance and I don't know what's to come with this, with our ministry, etc. We're kind of just waiting. He's always preparing you for something greater than you could ever imagine. But be honest with him. He cares so deeply and desires to have every part of you. I'm hoping God can use this story for other people, but also on a larger scale as a couple and how we've persevered through this season. And all the ugly. It was ugly. It was ugly. It wasn't cute. It wasn't cute. But we made it to the other side. So I'm praying for you guys, and I'll be back soon.